Hello, you wonderful people. My name is Justin. I am also known as the Cinemaverick, and today I'm going to be talking about the next film in my P.T. Ander-Thon. And that film is the second feature film from P.T. Anderson, and that is called Boogie Nights from 1997. This was really Anderson's breakout film in terms of gaining like a lot of attention. Certainly, he had been in the industry for a little bit. He'd obviously done Sydney, which is the film I talked about just before this one. But this one was really a both a popular success and a critical success, much more so than Sydney ever was. And it even got Anderson a nomination for an Oscar for Best Original Screenplay, as well as a nomination for Burt Reynolds as Jack Horner, and there might be other nominations that I'm not thinking of right now. But long story short, yeah, this is a film that really got him a lot of attention and really made him a name to watch. And he was still really young at this point. I mean, he still had a lot of a lot more films to make over his lifetime. So this was actually adapted. This film was adapted from a film that I talked about. It was the first one, actually, the first video log I did, which was the Dirk Diggler story. And here, instead of Michael Stein, we have Mark Wahlberg stepping in for Dirk Diggler, whose name is actually Eddie Adams. And it really tells this very familiar story. It's about a young guy comes from nowhere. He's discovered by someone in the industry. He makes it big, and then he has some problems, and he has to deal with that. And he has to deal with fame, and he has to deal with the lure of drugs. And we've seen this story so many times before, but I'm willing to bet we haven't seen this story in the environment of the porn industry necessarily. And that's what I think, in addition to so many other things, I think it is a very familiar story that's made fresh and new, both in the filmmaking technique, the storytelling, and the the general atmosphere, the general environment in which it takes place. And I'd say more so than what we've seen so far, this is really an ensemble drama, even though it is focused on Mark Wahlberg's character, and he is, a good focus of it. We do get a lot of really interesting characters. We have Jack Horner, who, unlike in the Dirk Diggler story, he's played by Burt Reynolds here. And what's interesting is the actor who plays Jack Horner in the Dirk Diggler story in the short film, is back here playing the Colonel, who's this producer, financier for Jack Horner's pornographic films. So it's interesting seeing, and Michael Stein actually makes an appearance here too as a customer in Don Cheadle's stereo store, and so it's interesting to see some familiar faces come up for some smaller parts. But in any case, this is, like I said, this is an ensemble piece. This features a lot of different characters. And what I really like about this movie, and I think is so interesting about it, and why I think it's maintained its critical reputation, is I love how alluring this world is. And you really see that in the way I mentioned it before with Sydney. This great, these great tracking shots where the camera just seems to be gliding along, like it's being almost effortless in its movements. And here we get a lot of great tracking shots. One that actually reminded me of the famous Copa scene from Goodfellas, which is certainly a huge influence, I think, on this film. Though I do think there are other influences as well. And so we get this very alluring atmosphere, and we get these great colorful characters. It's even in the clothes. Everyone seems to be wearing like a solid, just a solid color, either as a suit or a dress or something like that. I mean, it's really impeccable production design, costume design, you name it. And it really does make this world seem so alluring, especially to a very young Eddie Adams, who would eventually become Dirk Diggler and become a star, at least in this environment. So I love how we have that, but we have that offset with the perils of this lifestyle as well, because unlike some other films that I won't care to name, American Hustle, we see consequences. We see very dire consequences for these characters. I mean, and it's not just that things go bad necessarily. It's that things have always been bad, that and we just kind of get like a clear revelation of that. I want to try to avoid some spoilers here, so I'm not going to name, some of the more glaring examples I can think of, but safe to say that there's the great there's a great I love the character of Julianne Moore's character, who's Amber Waves, who is fighting for custody of her child. I mean, that's a very real problem, conflict, and she's an actress in pornographic movies, and that does not reflect very well in court. So you have these you have this lifestyle that seems very alluring, seems very welcoming, and it is. It's not that it's not, but it's that there are consequences to living this kind of life. Not the least of which is drugs, and we certainly see that with Mark Wahlberg's character, to the point where he can't even perform. I mean, the Jack Horner character basically tells him that he's not happy with Dirk's inability to get it up. I mean, he can't do that. He can't do his job. That's a very real, practical problem for this kind of industry. And I love how Anderson doesn't sugarcoat it. Now it is a very stylized kind of environment here. I think, and sometimes I'm not sure that works, even though I love this film so much because I think it is so precise in the way it draws its characters and the way it portrays this lifestyle. But there's a few moments that I think are maybe a little that maybe feel like a bit much. I mean, this is a pretty long movie, and we get some scenes. There's one scene later on when there's kind of a drug deal gone bad. Again, I don't want to say too much about it, but I wonder if that's played a little too cartoonish, and I think Anderson maybe missed a chance there, at least, to really show us the dark side, that these characters really have gotten in over their heads. But while I say that, there's a great moment that I think Anderson plays just right, which is kind of where Mark Wahlberg's character Dirk has fallen and has, in some respect, and he's basically back to what he was doing, and he has to do some not so savory things, even for him, even though he's a pornographic actor. And I think Anderson plays that brilliantly, and that's a real dark side to this life. I really want to praise the actors here. I could go on and on about pretty much all of them. This is maybe the finest work I've seen from Mark Wahlberg, and I really feel like it's Anderson really harnessing that earnestness that he always has as an actor. He's very genuine, even when he's not the smartest guy, but he is genuinely enthusiastic about this lifestyle and about what he wants to be. He's so much more than just someone who has sex on camera. He really does try to bring a personality to this character, or to the characters that he's playing, rather. You have great. I also want to really spotlight Julianne Moore as Amber Waves. I think brings a real tragedy to that character. She's brilliant. I mean, when is she not brilliant, honestly? I especially love the scenes where she's trying to fight for custody of her children. I think that's a very universal moment for any parent who just wants to see their kids. And I also really want to praise Burt Reynolds. Huge surprise for me. I heard he was good here. Apparently he disowned the movie afterward. He was saying he had a terrible time. I don't understand why, because this is the finest work I think I've seen from him. I mean, here you have the movie star charisma that he was famous for. You have all that, plus you have him playing you have him playing a character and committing to that character and really bringing this kind of fatherly sort of wisdom and experience, but also with just the right amount of insecurity as well. So and just a great ensemble, and I think it just does so many things well. It's extremely colorful. It's fun, but it's not fun to the point where you say, "Oh, this is just a fantasy world with these people." I think Anderson really does bring it back to reality for us. So far, this is my favorite film from Anderson. I think I'm gonna probably leave it there, and I can't wait to move on to the next movie. The next one is actually going to be Magnolia. I wasn't able to find Flagpole Special, which would be the next chronological thing. That's a short film with Chris Penn and John C. Reilly. I'm not sure you can really. I don't know if there's an actual accessible copy of that. If there is, please let me know in the comments below. I would love to know, and I'd love to review it. So yeah, like I said, my next film will be Magnolia, and I look forward to seeing you then. Take care.